Okay, I'm going to go through how to make a 10 stitch heart pattern. Okay, and there's some things to keep in mind. I've done it to where you can calculate any size, any number of stitches. If you want to make this into a blanket, you're only going to be able to get in about 4 or 5 rounds. And if that's the case, then what you want to do is you want to use a zippy loom, or you want to use a 2-peg method, and you want to do 10 to 12 stitches if you want to make a blanket out of it, okay? Because you start losing that top dip. My prototype was done with a 5-stitch, and I'm going to explain how you get the first amount of rows, but the object is to make a V first in order to get the heart shape as your finished product. Okay, so what you want to do is you decide what your stitch number is. Okay, so I originally used 5 stitches, and in order to get 5 chains you need to do 10 rows. Okay, well, I need it to be more of a V, so I doubled that, so I did 20 rows. Okay, so in order to get 10 chains, so if I'm going to do 10 stitches, in order to get 10 chains, then what I have to do is do 20 rows and then double that, and that makes it 40 rows that I need to do in order to make the V. Now I'm going to explain what 3 half decreases are, okay? And that's easy. What you're going to do is you're only going to decrease by half the pegs. So you're only going to decrease like 5 pegs, and then you're going to go back out rather than go the full 10 or 9. Okay? And then on the V, you're going to do what I call a reverse decrease while still picking up chains. And then you're going to do 16 rows, and then you're going to do 3 half decreases, and then you're going to work your way around. Okay, so I'm going to go over this and show you the first round, and then I'll have to show you the second round, and then after that it's just flow right along. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to do a slip knot like that, and you want to actually go in and you want to what I like to call crochet or chain cast on 10 stitches. So there's 2, send it around the back, pull that through, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the 10th one you'll put and just tighten the slip. Okay, so we've chained on 10. Okay, cleared up so we got our stitches. Okay, so what you're going to do is, I'm going to try to show this in garter, but in order to make this faster sometimes I'll go in complete knit, but I'm going to try to do this in garter. So what you want to do is you want to knit that first stitch, and so you want to knit your way back. You always want to be knitting your way back, and you want to purl your way forward. Okay, and I'm going to explain something, okay, so that this makes sense. When you are creating your shape, alright, when you are creating your shape, you're always going to be knitting these ends, alright? But after you create that shape, if you want a smooth transition between your rounds, then you're always going to purl this stitch. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. You're either going to knit the outer edges when you're doing the basic shape, or you're going to be going in and purling after you start the second round and you start adding chains back in. You're going to be purling that if you want a smooth not a ridge. If you want a ridge between your rounds, then you want to knit it. Okay, but that should be easy to remember because you're coming back with a purl. But first, to remember not to come back and purl that one, you need to knit that last stitch. So I'll show you that real quick, and then I'm going to tell you to go in and complete a total of 21 rows. I mean 41 rows, because the one sends you back. The one sends you back to start doing your half decreases. Okay, and going in and purling my way back. You're slipping that first stitch, by the way. You always slip the first stitch. Okay, and the reason why you slip the first stitch is to make a pretty chain so that you can see it for when you start doing your rounds and when you start connecting other areas. Okay, I'm at the next to the last stitch, and I've purled. I'm going to knit. I'm going to slip that first one, as you're going to slip on each side, that first one, so that you have a nice pretty chain to work with. Go ahead and knit your way over, and this will be 3 rows. Okay, so continue until you have 41 rows, or you can follow the calculation. If you want to just kind of do a test trial and you want to do 5 stitches, I would suggest doing 20 rows. Test trials are great, so if you want to do 5 stitches instead of 10, do 20 rows. Okay, and 21 rows, so the 21 back so that you can start a decrease. So 41 if you're doing 10 stitches, 21 if you're doing the 5 stitch. Alright, so knit, purl, and then always knit the ends because we're creating the shape, and then you're going to slip the ends. Okay, so go from there, go ahead and do your number of rows, and then we'll get started creating the curve around the heart and that kind of thing. Okay, I've done my 41 rows. Okay, and now it's time to do our half decreasing. Okay, and how this is going to work is we're going to wrap and turn 5 pegs only. Okay, this is going to add a curve rather than points, and that's what we want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple, and then I'm going to pause the video and then show you what it looks like before I start increasing again. And then I'm going to explain how you do that 3 times. Okay, so we're going to purl our way over until just before the last stitch. Okay, okay, here's just before the last stitch. We're going to wrap and turn and knit our way back. Okay, and remember, you keep slipping that first peg over here. Alright, and I'm going to show you one more time a wrap and turn, and you're only going to do 5 stitches. If you're doing the 5 stitch pattern, you're only going to do 3 wrap and turns. If you want to do the prototype that's a draft and see if you get the concept, you'll only decrease 3, but on this one you'll decrease 5. Okay, I usually go 1 over when it comes to doing an odd number. Okay, so we're purling our way back over, and then you're going to wrap and turn. So you're going to wrap and turn 5 times. Alright, so you have 2 wrap and turns. You're going to do that 3 more times, and then you're going to stop, and then you're going to increase again. But go ahead and pause the video and get your 5 wrap and turns done, and I'll show you what that looks like. and then you're going to want to increase. Okay, there we go. So go ahead and pause the video, complete 5 wraps and turns. There's 2. You're going to do 3 more, and then we will go from there. Okay, we've done our 5 wraps and turns. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so there's 5. Then you have 5 singles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now I'm going to tell you, this is going to be the easiest way, is go ahead and take your stitch marker and put it in. And this will tell you on your second round when you need to go in and do your half decrease on your second round. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to purl your way back over to the first wrap and turn. Okay, and you're going to purl 2 together. Alright, but what you're going to do on your way back is start with the one you finished, and you're going to knit that same peg, and then you're going to knit all the way back. Okay, this is increasing. Alright, remember to keep slipping that first one. Okay, you're going to purl your way back to the next wrap and turn. Here's your next wrap and turn. Purl the 2 together. Start with the peg you finished with, knit it, and then knit your way back. Add in your 5 wraps and turns, and I will show the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and add in those last 2 wraps and turns, but I'll show the last one and how you want to go about doing that one. Okay, I've got my last wrap and turn to add back in, and what you want to do, instead of purling the 2 together, you're going to knit the 2 together, and you're going to slip it and work your way back. Okay, and that is how you do a half decrease. Now you're going to do that half decrease 2 more times immediately. So as soon as you get to the end here, you're going to start again. So you're going to purl your way back over, and on that next to last peg you're going to wrap and turn. So you see where the process starts over again. So go ahead and do that half decrease 2 more times, and then we'll move on to start doing the top indentation, the first half of the top indentation on the heart. Okay, remember where you actually put your stitch marker. Right after you finish your 5th wrap and turn, put your stitch marker in. Okay, you already see a nice curvature developing there. You're wanting to develop a much nice smooth curve to create the heart. Alright, now I'm going to let you in on something real quick to go ahead and keep in mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to mark off a certain number of chains here, and that's our first one that we see right there. And what you want to do is you want to mark off 9 minus 1, okay, because when we do the reverse decrease we're going to be adding in 9 of these, not 10 like you might would think, because this one you keep slipping over here. Actually no, it's this one you keep slipping, and so you're only going to need 9 and not 10, so keep that in mind. And if you're doing the 5 stitch, you're only going to need 4, so you're going to count out 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that purple one I'm going to put a stitch marker on. That's going to be vital for me, okay, so that when I go in to actually start doing the reverse decrease, I know where to start. Alright, and that's a big difference. That's important to mark that stitch every time. You want to count back from the middle, and you want to count it back from 9. Okay, so go ahead and do 2 more half decreases, and then we'll move on from there to start creating the V shape. Okay, so pause the video and get that much done, and then we will go from there. Okay, I have finished my 3 half decreases, as you can see, 1, 2, 3. And now I'm ready to start connecting back this direction. Okay, and this is where we're going to start bringing up our chains. And when you're bringing up a chain, you are going to knit unless you want the ridge. Then you're going to, if you want the ridge, you knit. If you don't want the ridge, you're going to purl when you bring the chain up. Okay, so if you forget to put the stitch marker on, what you can do is look at your corner here, and you can see the V up. You can either do this one or you can do this one. It doesn't matter one way or the other, it's just so long as you get it close. So if you forget, you'll see a V and a single strand in between. You can either choose that one or that one, but I would stay consistent if you forget multiples. Okay, that's a suggestion there if you run into that. Okay, now I'm going to go back the other direction, and I'm going to knit back. Okay, and then I'm going to explain, we're going to continue this garter stitch. Okay, so what we're going to do, and I have 1, 2, 3. You see that? 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the side, you'll see that they're connected. All right, you're going to skip all 3 of those, and then you're going to see if I can get this as best I can. Okay, see, there's that one. Put the light on it. That one, and that one. You skip those 3 and you move to the 4th chain down, because those 3 are your half decrease chains. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to attach that chain. You're going to skip those 3 chains that came from the decreases. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to work all the way to this chain like you normally would, adding a chain in every row. When coming back, you're going to purl it, okay, until you get to here. Alright, when you get to here, this is when we're going to start doing what I call a reverse decrease, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But what you're going to do is you're going to start adding the chains on like you normally would, connecting these chains up until you get to that point. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to purl your way back. And because you're adding chains, I would suggest purling the 2 stitches together on the end. Okay, but you're going to do like normal. On a normal 10 stitch, you're going to be adding the chain, and if you want a ridge, knit the 2 together. If you don't, you want nice and smooth, purl the 2 together. But always slip it on your way back and knit all the way to the end. I'll show you one more time so that you know what you're doing and can continue up to the point where I show you the reverse decrease. You take that next chain, the next chain, you're going to add it to the peg. Okay, then you're going to slip that first one and purl your way back. And you're going to keep doing this until you get to that stitch marker that I showed you how to mark. Okay, and then when you get to that, we're going to do what I call a reverse decrease. And it's going to be a little mind-boggling at first, but it'll make sense. The reason why I call it a reverse decrease is because typically you're used to decreasing on this side. You're going to be decreasing on this side. But the thing you got to keep up with is you're still adding chains while you are decreasing on this side. Okay, so you've done that, and you're going to go back and knit, and you're going to continue this until you get to that stitch marker. So pause the video, get yourself to that point, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when doing a reverse decrease. So get yourself to this point, keep adding your chains, and we'll go from there. Okay, we have managed to get to our stitch marker, as you can see, and you see that it's nice and smooth. Alright, so now we're ready to do our reverse decrease. Okay, and I'm going to start explaining what that means. Alright, so here's how this works. You're going to take your stitch marker out. Alright, and then you're going to add that chain to the peg. Alright, now what you're going to do is you're going to purl your way over as would be normal. So you're going to purl your way over, and you're going to purl those two together. You're going to continue to be purling the two together on this end. Because you're connecting chains. When you're not connecting chains, you knit that. Okay, now you're going to slip it, and you're going to knit to just before the last peg over here. Okay. Wrap and turn. Then you're going to purl your way back. And then you're going to add the next chain up. Okay. You're going to add that next chain up. And put it on the peg. Like that. Okay. And you're going to purl your way over. And purl the two together. And then when you head back, you slip, and then you knit just before the last wrap and turn, and you wrap and turn, and then you want to purl your way back, and you want to do this all the way across. Add the next chain back on. Okay. Yeah, and add the chain back on. So you're going to keep doing this and wrapping and turning all the way over, and I'll show you like the last three when I get there, and then we'll go from there. So pause the video and do your wraps and turns all the way over. Okay? Okay, we're getting down to the last few. So I'm going to knit the one, wrap and turn, purl the one, and then as you can see, I have one last chain to add in here. Okay, we're going to purl the two together, slip, wrap, and actually knit, because there's no chain to pull up. Okay, so you see a wrap and turn all the way over. Okay, so this is kind of what you got. You see that down there. Alright, what you're going to do is you're going to start adding back in your wraps and turns, okay? But remember, you're knitting this way, purling this way. So you're going to knit, then you're going to come back around and start with the one you finished with, purl, and because you have no chains that you're pulling up, you're going to knit. Okay, and then you're going to go slip that first one, knit, knit two together, start with where you finished off, purl, purl, and knit, because you don't have any chains you're pulling up. Slip that first, knit, knit, knit 2 together, start with the one you finished, purl, 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 and then knit. Okay, and keep doing that until you've increased all the way back to the other side. Knit 2 together, and you continue that until you are done with your increase, and then we will go in and start working our way back up. Okay, let's go ahead and pause the video and complete that much, and we will go from there. Okay, now as you can see, we've done the V. Okay, and you can kind of look at it from here and see what we've done. Alright, so now we've got to go back up. Alright, well, here's how you keep up with what you do. Okay, you've got 9 chains you just made. So you want to just subtract from the 41, or so you've done 9 and you want to subtract from the 41, and you do however many rows there. Okay, so to keep it even, because what you're doing essentially is you're trying to keep it the same on this side as the other side, and that's actually where on my prototype I kind of messed up. And you'll notice on my prototype sometimes that the one side's a little longer, but the goal is to make it the same. So however many rows you did, which was 41, you're going to take those 9, you can count them. Okay, you can count the chains, and then you subtract from the number you started with. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And so you're going to subtract that from the 41. Okay, and then you're going to go from there. Alright, and if you are doing the 5 stitch, it's going to end up being 16 rows, and that kind of thing. Okay, you're going to do 32 rows. Okay, so you've got your 9, so you're going to do 32 rows of garter, and make sure that you knit that stitch instead of purling it, so that you have nice pretty chains to pick up when you come all the way back down. Alright, so go ahead and do 32 rows of garter, or 16 rows of garter if you're doing the 5 stitch prototype. Okay, so 32 rows of garter, and making sure you knit this end peg, because you want to create the chains so that when we come back down we can finish the heart easily and cleanly. Okay, so that's the next step, garter for 32 rows, and then I'll explain the next section. Alright, okay, because I noticed in my film footage I missed showing the 3 stitches you skipped over here, I'm going to show them now. Okay, so before I move on and explain this, you've done your straight row, okay, of I believe it was 32, but mostly if you get unsure, you want to be able to count 20 chains. Okay, if you count 20 chains, you know you got it. Alright, okay, so at this point, after you do your rows, you start immediately into doing your half decreases, so that you can create another section like this, and you do 3. Alright, same thing, go back in the video, watch, and you do 3. Alright, so I've done 3 half decreases, and what I need to do is start adding back in and start working my way all the way back to the tip. Alright, so I've done 3 decreases, 3 half decreases, okay, to create my curve, and I have 1, 2, 3. You see that? 1, 2, 3. And if you look at the side, you'll see that they're connected. Alright, you're going to skip all 3 of those, and then you're going to see if I can get this as best I can. Okay, see, there's that one, put the light on it, that one, and that one. You skip those 3 and you move to the 4th chain down, because those 3 are your half decrease chains. Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to attach that chain, and remember, when you're attaching chains, that becomes a purl. If you're not, it's a knit. Alright, if you want the ridge. If you don't want the ridge, it's a purl. If you want the ridge, it's a knit. Okay, so we're going to start adding our chains back in. Alright, and this is the downhill side, and this is pretty easy after this. So again, we're going to start purling our way back. We're going to purl those two together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain something when I get to the end and back one, just to show you where we're at and explain that. And the creating the shape that you want, which we're about to do, we're about done with it, is the difficult part. Okay, and we purl those two together because we're connecting chains, and I want a smooth line. Alright, and then I'm going to knit my way back. Alright, now you're going to continue doing this. You're going to just start connecting again, okay, at this point. And what that means is you're going to be connecting, and then you're going to get to this section here. Now that is a chain right there, okay, and then you have a dip. Here you have this kind of connector here. You're actually going to put that connector on because there's only 9 chains here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See? There's only 9 chains and you needed 10. Well, there's your 10. You're going to connect that. Alright, so that little spot right there, you're going to connect as your 10th chain. Then you're going to include all these chains from your original cast on. So you're going to follow like a regular 10 stitch, and then when you get to the connector part here, you are going to connect this here, okay? And then you're going to connect all the rest of them, and that should finish you your shape. If you're going to change color, when you finish to here, this is where you would change your color, okay? Now, I'm only going to show to the second round and how you do that because you're going to need to know in here. Now, what I do in here is you're going to need stitch markers, and I like to do this. Okay, so it's 9 chains, and here is 1 chain right here. So we're going to go one, and how you know which chain to start with is you'll see that's the connector. When you've added it back in, you'll see that and that. You'll see 2 connections, okay, and that's your middle point. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's an orange. And so what we're going to do is we're going to mark that. And that's going to help us when we go to do the second round, tell us when we need to start our reverse decrease. Okay, so it's kind of important. Now this second one is not necessary, but I like to do it anyway just to make sure that I stay on target. I'm going to go and start with the next one over, not the center one, the next one over, and I'm going to count 9 up that way so that when I go to do my reverse decrease, I'm staying on target, and I make sure of that. Okay, so there was my starting point with the middle. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that purple chain there. Alright, so what this means is this is where your reverse decrease on the next round will be. Alright, and that's how I mark it. Stitch markers are going to be imperative for this pattern because the fact that you don't have distinctive points and you have rounder edges, and so when you do that you need these markers to tell you, and that's how you find the markers to tell you where you need to go next and what you need to do. Once you finish the shape and you get the idea of how the second round goes, it's really smooth to continue on. Okay, then it's not so bad to continue on with the pattern. Keep in mind you're only going to get between 4 to 5 rounds. If you want more rounds, here's a thought. I haven't done it, but here's a thought. You do 10 more initial rows, but keep it written down how many initial rows you did. You do 10 more, which extends it. It makes it more of a longer V. That'll give you a little bit more rows you can do. Okay, so add 10 for maybe however many more rounds you want to do, but it will look strange, and I would not suggest a change of color if you're going to do that many rounds, because you're going to have one long V that's going to kind of be weird when the outside looks like a regular heart. This keeps it kind of not so wonky in the middle, but also keeps the heart shape going. So that's just a thought. You'd have to do the math for all of it. But for a 10 stitch, if you did 10 more rows, all you would still need to do is count 9 chains from here to start your reverse decrease. That's still the same, but you're going to do an additional 10 rows in order to get to that. But it's not difficult to add to these sections, but you got to keep up with the math on both sides if you choose to do this. This is experimental if you do, but I'm doing it from this base pattern. But if you're wanting to do more rounds, that's an option, but it's going to look strange in the center compared to the outside. This is going to look not so strange. It's going to keep the patterning more even, but that's options if you really want to do more rounds. The more rounds you want to do, add more rows in here. The half decrease is the same, and the reverse decrease is the same on the stitching. The only thing that changes is through here on both sides. Okay, so there's how to go about that. So go ahead and do your half decreases, start connecting down, finish the shape, and then I will show you how to go on to the next round and start working that way. Okay, this is what I've got for my initial shape. And at this point, here's your basic shape, and now you want to do your second round. And in order to get to your second round, you need to do a full decrease like you would a regular 10 stitch. Okay, so what we want to do is, we finished on this side, and we're going to knit our way back. Okay, so we just put the last chain on. Okay, so what we want to do now is we want to go in and we want to do a full decrease. And what that means is, hold on. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a full decrease, and this is what this means. So you want to purl all the way over, wrap and turn, and knit your way back. Okay, and you're going to do that all the way over. This is not a half decrease, this is a full decrease all the way over, just like you normally would. Okay, so purl your way over, wrap and turn, and knit your way back. Continue this until you have wrapped and turned all the pegs, and I'll show you the last two. So go ahead and continue the process of wrap and turn, and I'll move from there. Okay, we're down to the last two. So purl the one, wrap and turn, knit, knit, wrap and turn, and knit. Okay, you've done a full on decrease. Alright, now I would suggest putting a stitch marker in this stitch right here. I usually can keep up with what my corner is, but I would suggest putting a stitch marker right there. And what you want to do is you want to purl the two together, knit peg you finished with, and knit. Slip, purl, purl two together, knit all the way back, starting with the peg you finished with, purl, 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 two together, knit four back. And you're going to do this all the way over to here, and then we will start working on connecting. So go ahead and do the full increase, and then I'll move on to the next section. Okay, we're to the last wrap and turn, and what we're going to do is we're going to purl the two together, and when you get to something like that, you want to slip it and then knit your way back. Okay. Alright, now you're going to start adding your chains over here in, okay? And what I like to do is before I start the row, just go ahead and add the chain in. Purl my way over, purl two together, slip it, okay? So we will go over that real quick, and then you're going to do that up to this stitch marker. Then you're going to stop, and you're going to do a half decrease. So I'm going to show you this. This works like your typical 10 stitch here to start adding on things again. And you're going to purl the two together. And then you're going to knit your way back. Okay. So you're going to continue to add these chains in all the way up until your stitch marker. When you get there, you're going to stop, and we're going to do a half decrease. Okay, so you can kind of get the idea of where it's going to work from there. You're adding all the way up, and you're going to stop, and you're going to do a half decrease here, then work adding half decrease here, half decrease here, add, and that's when you're going to start your reverse decrease here. So go ahead and pause the video, get yourself up to your first stitch marker, and then I'll kind of go through how to work around the corners. On my star pattern, I suggest you could skip these, but with this one you're not going to be able to skip these chains. So go ahead and pause the video and get yourself up to that stitch marker, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to show you how to do a half decrease on the second round. I've already done the first two, and they work the same. So as you can see, I've reached my stitch marker. Okay, so that tells me when I've reached a stitch marker, I need to start the half decrease. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and do, fix the camera for you. I'm going to go in and do my half decrease, and then we're going to move on from there, and I'm going to show you how to do the reverse decrease on the second round. Since the second half also connects while doing the shape, the first half is the only half that connects. So I think it's going to be important to kind of show the reverse decrease where it connects all the way. Alright, so what you want to do is you want to purl your way over, wrap and turn, and knit. Okay, I'll show you one more, and you're going to do that for 5 wraps and turns, and then we'll go from there. So I'm going to show you how to do this one more time to get started. Wrap and turn, and knit your way over. So go ahead and pause the video and get a full 5 wraps and turns done. So you'll need to do 3 more wraps and turns, and then I'll come back and we'll start doing the increases, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Okay, as you can see, I have 5 wraps and turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's time to start increasing. So naturally you're slipping the first, and you're purling your way over. And then you purl the 2 together. And then you start with the peg you finished off with. Okay, and I'm going to show you one more time, and then I'm going to have you increase all the way out. And purl those 2 together. Start with the peg you finished to knit back. Okay, so go ahead and add all of them in, and when you get to this one, you purl it and then you slip it to go back. Okay, I've gotten to my last wrap and turn over here, and I'm going to purl the 2 together, slip it, and knit my way back. At this point, forgot to move my stitch marker. You want to actually add what the stitch marker was on to the peg. Okay, you're going to actually add that. And if you want to find the halfway point, you'll see a V. Okay, here's the V, and you'll see a line in the middle. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to choose the back side of the V. You're going to choose this stitch. Alright, so what you'll do is get that in there like that. That's how you find it. If you forget to do that, that's how you find it. You pull it out and you'll see a V show up with a column down the middle. Hopefully you can see that. I'm sorry my lighting's not good. I'm having a tough time in my life right now. And I haven't got a good setup again. So you'll see a V and you'll see a line down the middle. You choose the back half of the V chain. So that's how you find it if you forget. It's usually not a big deal to find it if you forget, but that's how you do it. Okay, so you want to actually use the chain that the stitch marker was on. When I do the star, I skip it, but with this it's kind of important to do it with the actual chain. So you work your way over, and then you purl 2 together, and then you knit your way back. And then you're going to add, you're going to just continue to keep adding until you get to the next stitch marker. When you get to the stitch marker, then you're going to be starting the reverse decrease. Okay, so work up to the next stitch marker and then we'll go from there. Okay, we've reached the stitch marker. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take it out because this means that we're going to start doing our reverse decrease. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to add that in like that, and we want to work our way over, and we're going to purl 2 together, and then we'll do a wrap and turn. So work your way over, purl 2 together, slip, knit, to just before the last peg. And I'm going to go ahead and add my next chain in. Again, I'm sorry about the lighting. Okay, wrap and turn and purl your way over. Purl 2 together. Slip, knit just before the last wrap and turn. I like to add the next chain so that when I wrap and turn, I'm ready to go back. Okay, and you're going to continue this wrap and turn and add the chain on all 9 pegs. Okay, you're going to wrap and turn all 9. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and continue this process until you have all 9 pegs wrapped and turned. Okay, so you're just going to continue this process where you knit back to just before the last wrap and turn. Add the next stitch. Add the next stitch on. Wrap and turn and purl your way back. So continue that until you have all 9 stitches with wraps and turns on them, okay? Okay, I'm wrapping and turning my 9th peg, okay? And I'm going to take the next stitch and put it on and purl the 2 together, okay? We're going to start increasing, so I'm going to slip that first one, knit 2 together, start with the one you just finished with, purl, add the next stitch, purl 2 together, okay, slip it, knit 2 together, start with the peg you finished with, purl, purl, add the next chain to the peg, and purl 2 together. And you've got the general idea of what's going on here. So go ahead and increase the rest of the pegs with this process, where you go and you add the next one in and you add a chain when you get to that last one, add the chain, and purl 2 together. So continue this until you have all of them, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I've added my last chain in that would have been from the stitch marker, and I'm knitting my way back and knitting those 2 together. That completes my full reverse decrease. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to count that. Alright, so you count 1, see there's the chain there, the green with the connection, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The orange chain that I have here is where I'm going to put a stitch marker, and that'll tell me when I go to do my 3rd round where to start my reverse decrease. You don't actually have to do a marker counting from when this becomes the chain, when the yellow becomes a chain. You don't actually have to do that, because this is just where you need to start, and the other just kind of gives you an idea, making sure that you're along the lines keeping up with even on both sides. And that worked out just fine. Okay, so I've added the stitch marker there, and at this point I'm going to be working like normal all the way up to here, this stitch marker, do a half decrease, and then work my way up to the stitch marker, do a half decrease, work my way up, half decrease, work all my way around to here. that is how you do a second round. Then you start with a full, like we did to start the second round. You start that to do the third round. And I don't know if I showed a sorry, I gotta find my stitch marker. I don't know if I showed how to find the corner, but I usually look for the short chain right there. Okay, if you can see this, there's a long chain here, and then there's this little short chain. I usually add my stitch marker to that little short chain, and that tells me when I'm ready to do my full decrease here down at the bottom. So that is how you go about doing this heart-shaped pattern. Well, after you do the reverse decrease, you just follow like you did around here, except you're doing your half decrease every time you get to your stitch markers over here. And then once you get past this last stitch marker right here, then you're just going to go regularly all the way down to the point. Then you start back over like you did with round 2 and continue the process over and over again. And again, I would say it generally goes to about 4 total. That includes the shape and then 3 more rounds. Okay, that's generally what the shape, where to keep that heart shape. If you want it longer, you'll have to do the math for it. You add more rows through here to your initial shape, which can make it look a little wonkier, I guess, if that's a word. You get a longer V, you get more rounds that you can do, but that requires calculation and everything, and I'll explain that in the pattern right up how to go in and do that. But this gives you approximately 4 total rounds, and that includes the shape. 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So that's how you go about making the heart shape 10 stitch.